Passion YouTube G85 take, I don't know, but we're getting it right this time. On this channel I post tutorials. It's a 16 megapixel compact 4K mirrorless micro four thirds camera with a
Make it toast right now to my family. Wanna thank them for the man that I turned out to be. Always being by my side and always helping. Thank though I've been a bad seat since 4th grade elementary. Finally realizing all the stuff they said to me was only said to me.
Hey, what's good, my passionate family? And if this is your first time here, what's up? I'm S.420. Today we're talking about the Panasonic G85 and its top 5 best features. Is this still a camera worth buying in 2021? Well, we're gonna find out right after the intro. If you're new to the channel, I'm S.420, creative director at Passion Video Productions. On this channel, I post tutorials, tips, reviews, and behind-the-scenes segments on videography and editing and Filmora for beginners. If that's something that's of interest to you, consider subscribing and hitting that little bell so you get notified when I post all future content. Before we start, guys, I just wanted to say that by no means am I an authority on video or the G85. I just wanted to share my experience and what I found out while using the camera. So with that being said, let me jump into this video. Back in June of 2020, I got the G85 to use as my secondary B camera to go along with my main camera, which is the GH5. The Panasonic G85 was originally released in 2016. It's a 16 megapixel compact 4K mirrorless micro four thirds camera with a 2x crop factor. Yeah, I know, right? The name itself packs a punch.
You got knocked the fuck out!
This 2x crop factor means that any focal length that we do put on this camera is going to be cropped times 2. For example, a 12 to 60 millimeter focal length, like the included kit lens, would then become a 24 to 120 millimeter focal length. This also applies to our aperture as well. It's something to be aware of if you're looking to buy this camera. I decided to go with the G85 because its color science and picture profiles are very similar to my GH5, which makes it easier to edit and color grade later on in post-production. Before we begin, I just wanted to let you guys know to stick around to the end of the video, where I have another special 2 bonus tips I'm going to give you guys. Alright, let's do this. Starting us off at number 5 is a mic jack that allows us to hook up an external microphone, such as the Rode Video Micro. We're going to want to be using an external mic if we can, because having great audio is a key component to producing great videos. I've heard Peter McKinnon say that
sound is so important. Audio is so important. We process audio before we process video. That's actually how it works.
So shout outs to Peter McKinnon for that big tip. Number 4 is the 4K live cropping. What this feature does is it sets our camera to a 4K output, and then it lets us select 2 1080p boxes to track movement from after we hit the record button. This feature is great for creators on a budget because it helps eliminate the need for a physical slider or a gimbal when they're just starting out. Coming in at number 3 is the 3-inch flip out touchscreen. It's a life-saving feature for getting those awkward up high or really down low angles. It also has that tap to focus feature that comes in handy, especially if you're looking to shoot vlog type videos where you'll need to be in frame and in focus. One tip that I heard Royal Zed Productions say was that
if my camera screen flips out, rest the screen on the top of my forearm here.
And then use that as another point of contact for stabilizing his camera.
This is the shit.
I thought that was a genius idea and a sick valuable tip, so shoutouts to Royal Zed for that. Do me a solid, guys, and hit that like button right now if you're getting any value out of this video. For number 2, I chose the 4K resolution, which is recorded at 100 megabytes per second in 24 and 30p using 8-bit color with no recording limit. It also records 60 and 30 frames per second in full HD with 8-bit color as well, but at a lower bit rate of 28 megabytes per second. I feel that the 4K feature on this camera is a major asset. It allows us a lot of flexibility in post. When we edit 4K on a 1080p timeline, this permits us to zoom in and reframe our shots without losing much of the image quality. Now, on to the number 1 feature that I think is the best on the G85, the IBIS, which is short for in-body internal stabilization. Because the G85 does have such a small micro four thirds sensor, they've been able to equip the camera with a 5-axis stabilization. This helps to smooth out camera shakes and drastically improves the quality of the image. If we pair this with the kit lens that also has in-body internal stabilization, we get what they like to call dual IS, or dual image stabilization, which allows us to be able to get some shots that normally would require a gimbal to pull off.
Damn!
I personally believe this is the best feature of the camera because it increases production value with smooth footage, and it also helps us to eliminate the need of a gimbal or a slider when we're just beginning in video. This wouldn't really be a fair video if I didn't touch on a couple of the cons that the camera does have, besides the 2x crop factor. One, it does have terrible continuous autofocus, and two, because it has such a small image sensor, it makes the G85 not the greatest camera in low light conditions. Fortunately, there's a way for us to get around these problems. The first has to do with the autofocus and is called tap to focus, which allows us to tap the touchscreen to focus on a specific area even though the camera is set in manual focus. Having our focus set to manual and then using this feature is going to help us eliminate the dreaded hunting of the autofocus that people like to complain about with Panasonic models. The last two solutions are for the low light conditions. The first one is having a faster lens that opens up to a wider aperture. I recommend a lens that can stop down to an f1.8 or a 2.8 if possible. If not possible, the last option instead is going to be to add in real physical lighting to brighten up your scene. So if you made it this far in the video, I wanted to say thank you for sticking around, and to reward you for that, I'm going to get into these last two bonus tips right now. The first is the Panasonic Image app. This can be downloaded for free from Google Play if you're an Android user, or the Apple App Store if you're on iOS. What this app will do for us is give us full control of our camera through our cell phone. Yeah, I know, it's amazing, right? With the app, we have the ability to change any of the settings in our exposure triangle. We can tap to focus, we can start and stop the recording. It's a huge time saver for people who are creating content by themselves, and it's also a great added bonus feature that we get when we buy this camera. The last tip that I have for you is that the Panasonic G85 comes equipped with two log mode color profiles called Cinelike D and Cinelike V that I've recently found out are specifically made for professional color grading.
That's what I'm talking about.
So, despite the low bit rates that we do get with the 1080p, we're actually getting two professional color profiles to use with our G85 that are not available in other consumer cameras. That's the second bonus we get if we're thinking about buying and using a Panasonic G series camera. And that's gonna wrap up the video for today, guys. The G85, in my opinion, is still a little powerhouse camera and is definitely worth picking up in 2021 if you're on a budget. If you found any value from this video, do me a favor and hit that like button. Will you be buying a G85 in 2021? I'd love to know in the comments what your best takeaway was from the video. Alright, my passionate family, keep making that content, and I'm gonna see you in the next video. By the way, guys, I just recently posted a couple videos talking about the exposure triangle, as well as a behind the scenes segment from a video shoot that took place in January. You can check those videos out now by clicking on one of these boxes on the screen. I'm out.